Okay, first off, can we give a round of applause to everyone here for making it through despite the weather? I did put in the Slack through wind, rain, or shine, and people did show up. So please applaud, round of applause. Thank you so much for coming. This is such an exciting event because Persian New Year, for any of you who know about it, who celebrate it, is such an incredible celebration for so many different communities, and especially right now with the Iranian community and what's happening in Iran. I thought that it was really important to celebrate this, and especially with the KH community and this amazing group of scholars and outside community as well, to bring them in and really have this amazing discussion. We have 3 amazing speakers. I'm going to let them jump in. I'm going to start with Mojdeh Shamsaie. She's going to give us a history of Nowruz, and we also have some Persian poetry reading. We can't talk about Persian New Year without having some Persian poetry. So I'm going to hand it off to her. Thank you.
Greetings. I would like to thank Dr. Milani and Iranian Studies for inviting me. It's an honor to be a part of this event. I'll begin by remembering the brave souls who have lost their precious lives fighting for the most basic human rights in Iran over the past 6 months. Nowruz is the most difficult time of the year for their families and loved ones, who will feel their absence now more than ever. I share your sadness. The name of each and every one of them is forever sewn into Iran's history, and they will never be forgotten. Nowruz celebrates the passing of darkness and the winter frost and welcomes the arrival of light and the spring breeze. Its history can be traced back to the culture and rituals of early agricultural communities, a culture dating back to at least 7,000 BC that nourished all future cultures. Thus, despite attempts by certain religions to try and claim it for their own benefit, Nowruz has no roots in religion and is purely inspired by people's relationship to nature. In ancient times, each person's identity was grounded in the collective identity of their tribe or clan. Although today there is more emphasis on individuality, many still define identity based on religion, nationality, or political affiliation. In ancient millennia, same as today, celebratory or mourning rituals were all opportunities for families and communities to reunite and tighten their bonds, and for individuals who have a sense of belonging to counter loneliness and solitude. Nowruz is fundamentally one of the 4 main seasonal celebrations of ancient agricultural communities, perhaps the most important one. It is the celebration of the beginning of spring, the celebration of cosmic renewal and its rejuvenation. It is the ritual of venerating a vegetation of earth and giving thanks to the nature and animals that feed us. Based on scholarly research in the past, Iranians were part of a larger group that most likely resided in the cold climate areas which span from the north of the Caspian Basin to Danube River, or from the south of Yenisei River to the Caspian Sea. These people had access to just 2 seasons, winter and summer. A slow migration spanning over 1,000 years saw part of this group move to where we now call India, while another group settled in its neighboring plains, which encompasses modern-day Iran. In this new setting, Iranian tribes came to know the cycle of 4 seasons, and the lunar calendar based on their pastoral needs began to conflict with the solar calendar based on their agricultural needs. In the end, agricultural expansion resulted in the solar calendar becoming the official calendar for all. It could be guessed that they viewed the 4 seasons like the rise and fall in a human's life. Spring, birth and growth. Summer, youth and strength. fall, decline and despondence, winter, old age and death. And once again comes the spring, resurrection, rebirth and rejuvenation, the desire and hope of every human being, the inception of the idea of resurrection in religion. So there is no surprise that they call the beginning of the spring Nowruz, meaning new day. Thus, in accordance with the 4 seasons, the 4 most important Iranian celebrations were Nowruz or Farvardingan, the beginning of spring and its first month, Farvardin, which took 12 days and ended on the 13th, or Sizdeh Bedar, with an outing to the plains which was believed to ward off misfortune. Tirgan, the beginning of summer and its first month, Tir, the season of the sun's peak, the 13th day of the month, Tirruz of Tir Mah, is the climax of the celebration, which was thought to be the day Arash set the border between Iran and Turan with his arrow. This is the second significant 13th after Sizdeh Bedar. Mehregan, the beginning of fall and its first month, Mehr, the daily decline of sunlight and the beginning of rain season, especially in the month of Aban, with its name originating from Ab, water, and Baran, rain. Degan, the beginning of winter and its first month, Day. The Yarda celebration marks the start of the sun's rebirth when days begin to slowly become longer. Yarda means birth and is referring to the birth of Mehr, whose astrological sign is the sun. Yarda celebration was followed by the Little Sadeh and the Big Sadeh, where bonfires would be ignited to aid the sun in regaining its strength. And then there's Chorshanbe Suri, the festival of fire, which is actually tonight. Suri means red, which is related to both fire and sun. And Chorshanbe refers to the day of the week, the eve of which is when this celebration takes place. Chahar, meaning 4, goes back to the 4 elements of life in agricultural culture: water, air, earth, and fire. In this nighttime celebration, bonfires are raised everywhere, and participants jump over them, asking the fire for warmth and giving their own coldness in return. Amidst these fires guide the army of Feridun, the emancipator, on his way to the destroyer Zahak, the snake shoulder. During Chorshanbe Suri, a spoon-banging ritual gives news of the coming of spring and the return of the dead and wards of evil spirits. And once again, we go back to Farvardingan and the rebirth of the world, the wondrous cycle of nature, which begins with Norooz, lasts 13 days, and comes to an end with Sizdeh Bedar. Scholars claim that the Sizdeh Bedar ritual of warding off misfortune by going out into nature may have no direct connection to Norooz. In ancient times, Nowruz involved 6 days of prayers recited by Magi, cleansing oneself from the past and reuniting with loved ones, exchanging gifts, forgiving past quarrels, and strengthening bonds. Sizdeh Bedar is believed to be related to a different ancient belief that imagined the world to have a life cycle of 12,000 years before death and resurrection. Scholars claim the first 12 days of the year each represent 1,000 years since the start of world order and history, and that the 13th day represents the fall of world order and the end of the chaos that follows. Ancient Roman calendar is believed to have been 10 months long, and their New Year was concurrent to the Iranian New Year at the beginning of spring. However, we have little knowledge of their celebration rituals. It appears at some point after their conversion to Christianity and the everlasting wars with the Persian Empire, in one of their calendar changes, the Romans moved their New Year to the agricultural winter celebration. Yarda, which meant the birth of Mehr or sun, was regarded as Persian sun worshipping and was changed to a celebration of the birth of Christ. And as such, many of the myths in the Bible surrounding Jesus share striking similarities with ancient Iranian celebration and rituals. One of the more evident signs of this calendar shift is apparent in the contradictions within the Western calendar. September, meaning the 7th month, is actually the 9th month. October, meaning the 8th month, is actually the 10th month. November, meaning the 9th month, is actually the 11th month. And December, meaning the 10th month, is actually the 12th month. Persian fables attribute Nowruz to Jamshid, who in mythologies of Iran and India is sometimes considered the first king, and the other times considered the first human being. The myth of Jamshid relates to the agricultural evolution and its culture of fertility. Jamshid's era was the age of early civilization, prosperity, and celebration. In Ferdowsi's Shahnameh, however, Nowruz is the day Jamshid built his throne. Sitting atop his throne, demons lift him into the skies where he shines like the sun for but a few moments. I shall now read the poem in Farsi. You can find the translation on the screen. به فرق کیانی یکی تخت ساخت چه مایه بدو گوهر اندر نشاخت که چون خواستی دیو برداشتی ز هامون به گردون برافراشتی چو خورشید تابان میان هوا نشسته بر او شاه فرمانروا جهان انجمن شد بر تخت اوی فرو مانده از فرده بخت اوی به جمشید بر گوهر افشانودند مرا روز را روز نو خواندند سر سال نو هرمز فرودین برآسوده از رنج تن دل ز کین بزرگان به شادی بیاراستند می و جام و رامشگران خواستند چنین روز فرخ از آن روزگار بمانده از آن خسروان یادگار. Other than Ferdowsi's poem and the background of Nowruz, the most important book written in prose is Khayyam's Norooznameh, where he speaks of the history and rituals of Nowruz with clarity. Other poets have also composed poems in praise of the rejuvenating spring weather, with some even briefly mentioning the background of Nowruz or other related rituals. From Ferdowsi. نگهدار آیین جشن صده همان فر نوروز آتش کده. From خواهانی نوروز جهان پرور مانده ز دهاقین دهقان جهان دیدش پرورده به بربر. نوروز بزرگ آمد آرایش عالم میراث به نزدیک ملوک عجم از جم. From نظامی به جشن فریدون و نوروز جم که شادی سترد از جهان نام غم. This poem refers to the story of Zahak defeating Jamshid, the bringer of Nowruz, by sawing the tree Jamshid had hidden him into two. Jamshid is the symbol of fertility and prosperity in the tree. Zahak is the symbol of drought and destruction that cuts the tree down. Feridun, who is also a symbol of fertility and prosperity, eventually dethrones Zahak and brings back Nowruz and its rituals. There are also two sisters in this myth, Shahnaz and Arnabas, Jamshid's daughters, who symbolize water and earth. Zahak enslaves the two and Feridun frees them. Their liberation is tied to the return of Nowruz. Here's another poem by Nizami in relation to Nowruz. به نوروز بنشست و می نوش کرد سرود سرایندگان گوش کرد, which shows Nowruz as a time for joy and celebration and listening to the legends of the past. And another one from Muhammad Jalaluddin Balkhi, known as Rumi. چون عید نو باز آمدم تا قفل زندان بشکنم وین چرخ مردم خوار را چنگال و دندان بشکنم. Which shows that in the past, it was a tradition during Nowruz to open the jail cells and let the prisoners roam free. I will wrap up with 2 points from Saadi and Hafiz. Saadi's point in celebration of the New Year. برآمد باد صبح و بوی نوروز به کام دوستان و بخت پیروز. مبارک بادت این سال و همه سال، همایون بادت این روز و همه روز. And from Hafiz, the poet whose divan Iranians use for fortune telling in the new year. ز کوی یار می آید نسیم باد نوروزی، از این باد در مدد خواهی چراغ دل بیفروزی. Since ancient times, Iranians have associated luck with the blowing wind, and here, the breeze of Nowruz is the bringer of light and good fortune. Thank you. Happy Chorshambe Suri. Happy Nowruz. Wish you all a wonderful year and hope for Iran and Iranians to be free from the tyranny of Zahakian in the coming year.
If you know anything about the art of Persian poetry, it's incredibly difficult to read it the way that she beautifully did. So can I get another round of applause? Okay, we have Shervin Emami, who's going to discuss the half scene, which is the altar that we have. A lot of you might not know what everything stands for or why we do something like that, and discuss a little bit more about maybe Chorshambe Suri. Do you want to come or stay? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Salam و درود به همگی. I'm grateful and humbled to be here and would like to thank you all for joining us tonight and to be celebrating with us our very important and culturally unified tradition of Nowruz. As we say in Persian, thank you for illuminating our party with your presence. What Nowruz celebration entails starts with the literal meaning of the word Norooz. And it's hard to follow Mojdeh, but what Nowruz means is basically it is celebrated at the very first day of the spring, and it marks the beginning and the rebirth of nature and its reflection on us humans and as an individual and as a community. The word Nowruz, new day, represents to create a new beginning for everyone and everything in every aspect of your life. It is a time to rebuild, renew, reconcile, and reunify as a nation, and more importantly, as humans. All aspects of preparation for this day also direct towards the same purpose and cause. It is the most important cultural event in Iran, and also a purely cultural event. And all people, regardless of their ethnicities and religious beliefs, celebrate it for the most part exactly the same way and together. In fact, it is a time to put your differences aside and reconnect with your relatives, friends, and those whom you have not spoken or been in contact with in the past year. There are a few traditions leading to this day, and they all are practices towards the same theme of rebirth, renewing, and the way it progresses is that you begin cleansing and purifying from the external layers of your life to the more internal layers and purifying your own body and soul. Some of these traditions are such as Khane Tekani, which literally translates as shaking your house. But What it really means is to clean your entire house and in a way to purify and your home from like physical dirt, but also it connotes to getting rid of all the bad energies and negative and residuals of what you didn't like in the previous year. And that can be spiritual, physical, and basically actually cleaning the house. Another tradition is buying new clothes. And it used to be another crucial tradition among people. And of course, with all the financial strains, there are not that many people who can do that today. But the concept leads to the same purpose of renewing and in fact, for a lot of families, if it were to happen only one time a year, this would be the only time that everyone would strive to provide that for every member of the family. And that means even if you're buying one item for each member of your family, and you can't afford to buy the whole clothing new and brand new, you have to wear something that you haven't worn before. Then there is a very important tradition of Çarşamba, which is the last Tuesday night of the year. And in fact, as Mojdeh mentioned, tonight is the night for it. And that is to set a bonfire and jumping over the fire while reciting a line, سرخی تو از من، زردی من از تو, which means, may your red color, which symbolizes health, be mine, and my yellowness or pale skin color, symbolizing sickness, be yours. And that is the last act of purifying in preparation to welcoming the new year. By saying that you wish for a healthy soul and body in the coming Nowruz, and you're hoping to be receiving that from the nature, and specifically in this case, the energy of fire, by giving away your sickness, weakness, impurity, and anything that you don't want in your own being. When you've done all that, you're ready for your hafsin. And hafsin is a spread with 7 items that begin with the letter sin in Persian, which has the same sound as S in English. And the hafsin sets the intention for the next year. The spread of hafsin includes seep, apple, representing beauty and love, seer, garlic, representing good health, sirke, vinegar, representing patience and resilience, sombol, representing spring and blossoms, samanu, sweet syrup, representing sweetness and kindness, sabze, sprouts, representing greenness and rebirth of nature, seke, coins, representing prosperity. And there are other items such as mirror and candles representing future and light and hope. Goldfish in a little bowl running around representing life. And painted eggs which represent fertility. So in summary, Nowruz is the celebration of nature, love, and beauty, and at the same time preserving these elements in the rebirth of spring. And it represents the essence of what human nature stands for, and also what the people who celebrate it stand for. Today, Nowruz represents a nation who strives for nothing but kindness and giving and wanting to be free. And the half-scene and all the symbols and all the beauty that the half-scene and Charshamba Suri and all the other traditions that lead to this event are showing what our population stands for. Thank you.
Thank you, Shervin Jan. Dr. Milani, if you can take us to Nowruz today in Iran, what's happening in Iran, and then we have a Q&A for any questions about the current political status in Iran and how Dr. Milani, the man, the myth, the legend, can speak to that.
Well, first of all, thank you all for coming. In talking about Nowruz, I forgot to mention one important aspect of it. It's a ritual, always performed. And that's the audience gives a gift to the speaker. As soon as the ceremonies end, the other fact is that no sane man would stand before a hungry audience and shove a kebab. So I'm going to be very brief. The movement in Iran today has been, a clear call for it is woman, life, and freedom. The three women sitting on this stage represent the vibrancy, the power, the intelligence, the assertiveness of the Iranian woman from two different generations. Mojdeh Shamsaie, who we all had the good fortune of listening to, is one of the most acclaimed artists, actresses of her generation. She has been directing plays for us as a essentially co-director for the last 10 years. She's simply remarkable in her ability to find her way around the world, around the campus, around the arts. So it is a rare fortune to have poems about Nowruz sang by one of the greatest actresses of that generation, and talked about Nowruz by two of the most remarkable people of the younger generation. This lady and Dr. Shervin Emami are in their own rights representatives of why Iran is a vibrant society and why women are leading the democratic movement. Now, I wear the tie for a purpose, aside from the fact that I want to celebrate that there is a method to this madness. The tie has a color that is very much a Nowruz color, and it has a design on it that describes the politics of Nowruz. You all talked about how Nowruz is an agricultural 7,000-year celebration. But we haven't talked about the fact that for the last 1,400 years, there is a force in Iranian culture and society who has tried singularly, unabashedly, almost incessantly to stop Nowruz from happening and try to replace it with ceremonies that have a religious basis. Today in Tehran, if you go and look at the images, it was a virtual battleground. People lighting fires, and the hoodlums of the Iranian regime and the police of the Iranian regime trying to stop it. Because for 44 years, the Islamic Republic has repeated the same mantra. Charshamba Suri is a fire worshipping ceremony. It is heretical. Some of the top clergy have literally said celebrating is a form of heresy. And every year, the number of celebrants has increased. This symbolizes the torn, in a sense, or tormented soul of Iran. This is probably the single most recurring design in Iranian architecture, in Iranian design. Rugs, I've heard about your rug here and I've heard how expensive this rug is. They should have bought Persian rugs. They don't have worried about tea falling on it. You could drop the tea, you could step on it, you could bring your car on it, and it will accrue value rather than it truly is. You think I'm joking, but that's true. New Persian carpets are put in the street so cars drive over it so that it can get some quality. Now, this design is about the tormented soul of Iran. This paisley is the Zoroastrian tree of paradise, bent but not broken by the Arab invasion. Scholars, poets, writers have written about this. Iran today, Iran over the last 150 years, is engaged in essentially a cultural war and an identity politics war. Is Iran essentially a pre-Islamic culture? Is Iran fundamentally an Islamic culture? Or is Iran both? This tells you that Iran is both. Iran is both the ancient mythologies, but Iran is also Hafiz and Sa'di and Attar and everyone else. And people in Iran today celebrate Nowruz, celebrate Shahshamsui, celebrate Sinzadeh, and not just in Iran, in Iran in the larger sense of the world. Almost 10% of Iranians now live in diaspora. And in the 30 years I have been here, the number of people who celebrate each of these events in diaspora has increased every year. So before COVID, if you went on Sinzadeh, 20,000 people converged in the park to do what people in Iran love to do: cook, drink, and dance. Drinking and dancing are both central parts of Iranian literature, central parts of Iranian miniature. There is nothing more recurrent in Iranian miniature than a woman and a man dancing and drinking. Both of those are forbidden in the Islamic Republic, and both of them are said to be forms of fire worship. But none of this has stopped people from pursuing Nowruz, Sinzadeh, and Shahshamsui, because in that culture war, I think, more than ever today, people have recognized that the identity that defines Iran, or the identity that people of Iran want to define them, is an identity of citizenship in a secular, democratic country where men and women, Jews and Baha'is and Christians and infidels, Turks and Kurds and Baluchis and Arabs are treated as equals. There is no discrimination based on gender, there is no discrimination based on sex, there is no discrimination based on color. There is overwhelming evidence that that's what the people want, and there is overwhelming evidence that a very brutal regime is keen on not making it happen. But on Nowruz, we forget about the evils of the world, we hope that they wash away, and we celebrate. So let's celebrate, and let's have a hand for this remarkable young lady who has organized this event and the other event that we had here a few months ago. She actually opened this place. I used to think that only Knight-Hennessy folks can enter here and mere mortals can't come in. She opened this place to mere mortals like us.
No. Thank you. Can we get another round of applause, please, for our three speakers? Now, do we have any questions for Dr. Milani, specifically doing a small Q&A for Dr. Milani, if anybody has any questions? I know we're between you all and a lot of Persian food out there, but if anybody has any questions, now is your time.
And if you're asking a question, you're taking your life in your own hands. Because people want kebab. They don't want question.
Yes, Carly, hi.
Hi. What can non-Iranians do to support the movement?
I think the Iranian diaspora is now more than ever organized in trying to get ready for a transition, trying to pressure the US government or other governments to stop flirting with this regime, to stop providing the funds that it will use essentially to oppress people. But join us in demonstrations that are attempting to show solidarity. Mike McFall was just here. He just left. He was here all the time. I know he has another program to go to. He and I and Diamond just taped a conversation. And part of the conversation was that what the Iranian people need to know is that this regime doesn't have a free hand at them, that the world is watching and that the world is supporting. Have no doubt, if we get a demonstration with 25,000 people, it will lighten days, dark days in Iran. Iranian people who suffer at the hand of this regime realize that there is another world and people are supporting. So support people. Pressure the government to do the right thing by the democratic movement in Iran. Again, Mike and I today wrote an article, you can see it today, it's in Foreign Policy. And we said, if America decides that its interest, long-term interest, is not joining with autocrats, but supporting the democratic aspirations of people like Iran, tomorrow will be a better Middle East for the United States, for US allies, and absolutely for the people of Iran. We are not asking for the United States to interfere in Iranian affairs, but we are asking it to recognize the power of this movement and allow it to thrive and be assured that that is in the long-term interest of everyone in the region. Democracy is in the long-term interest of you, us, and everybody. Help that process.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
What has changed about the situation on the ground in Iran since the last event we had in the past few months?
Several tens of thousands of people, according to the regime, have been arrested. The regime now claims they have pardoned, Khamenei has pardoned over 20,000 people. How many people have they arrested that they have pardoned 20,000? Oh, close to 600 people have been killed in the streets. What has happened is that women have been put under increasing pressure to put the veil on. What has happened is that forces clearly connected to the regime, we don't know who ordered it, but it is absolutely impossible to imagine anyone else doing this, have attacked upward of 1,000 schools, girls' schools, with chemical weapons, essentially, to intimidate Iranian women to put back the veil. They have bought Chinese technology, the most sophisticated face recognition technology, to take images of women without a veil and say that we're going to deny you access to university, we're going to stop your accounts, we're going to fine you. And Iranian women have continued to resist. But the suppression and oppression and brutality since the last time we were here has been just remarkable. And I am awed by the fact that it continues, although it continues at a much, much less of a pace.
Anybody else? Yes.
Thank you so much. I wanted to ask, do you see anything significant happening to weaken the regime in the near future, or do you see it falling within our lifetime?
I think there are two false assumptions about the Iranian reality. One is the assumption that some in the opposition make, that this regime will fall tomorrow. And the last time I was here, we had almost the same conversation. This regime still has some venom in it. It has some power to suppress. It has still kept the oppressive apparatus intact, and usually that means there is some time left. But it is equally folly to think this regime can survive. This regime has become completely alien with what the people of Iran want. It has no solution to the economic reality. Another thing that has changed since the last time we were here, I think the last time I was here, dollar was 25,000 to month. It is now close to 50,000. So if you had your money in Iranian currency, if you're earning, that means since the last time we were here, your purchasing power has halved. She mentioned people not being able to buy clothes. People are essentially limiting drastically their intake of meat. So the regime that is so strange with the culture of the people, with the desire of the people. You look at any image of Iranian leadership, it is completely men, and almost all of them above the age of 85. And Iranian society is a young society. 60% of college students are women. Some of the best and brightest in Iran are women. Look at these people. Look at these ladies. There are few people who compare with these, but these are the cream of the cream. Why should they be ruled by men? Of course, I'm talking and they're silent. But that's because they said they don't want to speak. I'm sorry, but I'm going to shut up. Let's go have chabab.
Do you have any last questions? No pressure. Okay. Well, thank you all. This is such an incredible, if you have any indication after this, if you didn't know before how important Nowruz is, it is what we look forward to every single year. Please take pictures of the Hafseen. Please don't touch, but these are each of the things that Shervin mentioned. The symbolic items, you'll see fish. You usually see those on the Hafseen. You'll see the sabzi, which is the stalks that have grown, which the 13th day after Norooz, which was mentioned, sees the Bidar, you throw it into the river to symbolize refreshing. You're going into a new year, you're tossing out the old. Everything has so much symbolism. We're so excited to share this all with you. There's so much Iranian food out there. There's going to be dessert in here and tea. And the very traditional dish for Nowruz that you'll see out there is sabzi polo mahi. So sabzi polo is like rice with some greens in it. It's very delicious, and you eat it with fish. And that's a very traditional dish for New Year's. And from all of us, Nowruz Mubarak, Happy New Year's. Thank you so much for celebrating with us. We have one last thing. We mentioned Charsham Masudi a few times, this celebration on the eve of Tuesday. And what you do is you jump over fire. The Iranians in the room know this, but you may have seen like Persians do this thing where they jump over a huge bonfire and you're like, what is that? So what they're saying is like it's like you're symbolizing taking all of the sickness of this year and you're tossing it out and you're asking for like a healthy red like cherry glow. And you jump over fire as you say this. We have tiny candles if anyone wants to participate. We can do this. They are not real fire for the folks at Knight-Hennessy. They are switch on. But this is something that we do every single year for Charsham Masudi. It's incredibly important and symbolic. And for anyone who would like to celebrate with us, I think any one of us would love to do it with you and guide you. So thank you everyone, and for Zan Zindagi Azadi, Women, Life, Freedom, thank you so much for joining us today. Now you can eat.
What happened to the gift for the speakers?
She should.